The following is an interview with the lead developer of Sanctuary Shattered Sun, 9-2. This is that's his handle. His handle is 9-2. The game is called Sanctuary Shattered Sun. It's currently got a Kickstarter going. I've put 100 Australian dollars on it, and it met its initial funding goal in like an hour. There are various stretch goals. Essentially, it's like Supreme Commander if you've played that before. And yeah, I've got a bunch of questions for him. I did not send him these beforehand. He said he didn't. He wanted to do it on the fly. Very honest person. So basically, I ask a bunch of questions, and in the background, there's just some gameplay that I recorded from the single player and from the multiplayer playtest, which happened on the 28th of July. So I hope you enjoy this. It's the first time I've done an interview of this kind. Do let me know. All right, well that should come up again then, because I was planning on asking about that.
All right, let's do it.
All right, hello and welcome to this developer interview with 992, the CEO of, is it In Heart and Media?
Yeah, it is. Although technically not a CEO. I'm a director of In and Media, producer, creative director, lots of titles, but we don't actually have a CEO because we're too little for that.
Fair enough. So this is the team behind Sanctuary Shattered Sun, which you've seen on the channel recently. It's an RTS game. It's currently got a Kickstarter up, which I'll link in the description. And I was wondering, so lots of people who watch this channel won't be familiar with your game. Could you describe it to them?
Right. Well, we're an RTS game, large scale, simulated projectiles. We're closest in play style to Supreme Commander Forged Alliance. There are parallels with lots of other games, Planetary Annihilation, Total Annihilation, Bar. There's lots of similar concepts because it's the same sort of game. It's just another installment in that chapter of RTS. But there's a few things that make it stand out. This genre of RTS, you have the strategic zoom. You can zoom all the way out, see the entire map, and then move your mouse and zoom back in, which kind of lets you deal with bigger maps, bigger battlefields, and you can command it while zoomed out. And it allows you. It's just a larger scale game. It's not some of the RTS games. You have like small packs of units. You have 5, you have 30. For us, you can have like 1,000 in just one group having a battle. Somewhere else, there's another 1,000. So, I could talk about it all day, but those are that's kind of the genre. Also, an important bit is the flow economy. So it's not like you just have like a building that you place and you get deducted $1,000 instantly or something like that. Instead, it's like a stream of economy where you have resources coming in per second. You spend them per second and you divvy them up between multiple projects. So you can totally be building 6,000 things at once. They'll just build really, really slowly because each one is like getting 1/6,000th of the resources that they need. But this allows you to do really cool things because you can rush projects, right? If you have a big bank of money, you can build like the most expensive thing in the game in 1 second if you have enough resources and enough builders. So that makes it special. And that makes the strategy really cool because you can rush projects. And now what you do is you scout, you see what the other guy's doing, and then you're like, oh crap, I need to do this, right? It's an emergency. You're about to die, but you can rush it. You can focus on one thing. You can say, oh, I need ships, I need submarines right now. And you just move all of your economy to building submarines. And that's a really cool facet of the strategy that I don't see in other RTS games. That's kind of a flow economy concept, but also just the power of assist is so strong that it lets you do that focus.
Great, yeah. So the game we usually cover on this channel is called Wano, and in that game you get points. You just get given income. So it's a flat income, 260 points a minute. You can spend it on a tank, you can spend it on a helicopter. In this game, you have to gather the resources yourself. There's two resources, alloy and energy, and then you build your own factories and you build your own units, and presumably the enemy can blow up your factories. He can go after your resource production, so there's a lot more there. On the topic of the assists, so I've played your demo. You get engineers, you can put loads of engineers on a factory and so on. Does that have diminishing returns? So if you have two engineers building one thing, does it just build twice as fast and take twice the resources? or is it like
Yes.
1.5? Okay,
No,
cool.
no. Yeah. So if you really want something, just get 100 engineers and you'll build it at a hundred times the speed.
But it'll take more resources, 100 times the resources.
Well, that's right. Like, I mean, you're bound by resources, right? So, you can have a billion engineers, but you're still only going to build as much as your resources allow. And that was kind of explaining more the genre of RTS, specifically like what our game does. We have a few next gen kind of features. The game takes place on a Dyson sphere, so you're actually fighting on an artificial world that's like a sphere with a thin crust, and the super weapons in Sanctuary actually blow holes in the crust, and the enemy base just like falls down into the sun. And there's a giant hole in the map. So I don't think anyone's done that one before. We also have the artificial atmosphere generators can be damaged, and all the cooling comes out, and it snap freezes the whole map. So now all the water is ice. All the ships are stuck and can't move, but they can still shoot. And now the tanks can drive across the sea, right? And it's another feature that I haven't seen done before, and they both sort of have something in common. They kind of like the player can interact with the map, right? So it's kind of taking it to
Yeah.
the next level. We also have our T5 units, which are like the super gigantic titans. They're like just, on a different scale, man. Like, I mean, they can just kill like essentially anything and in style. Because if you look at the videos of them, they look like quite cool and fancy, just disintegrating stuff into dust. Um, these are all stretch goals, I should mention. We have a Kickstarter on right now that's gone really well. We've crossed off all the early stretch goals that get all your like wonderful foundation of RTS games. I think we got like 13,000 left on Navy, so that'll close really soon. Um, but the things like Shadow, Freeze, the T5s, we need your support to make it a reality. So if you're interested, please go check out the Kickstarter page.
Yeah, definitely. So I've backed that myself, and in the free demo you've got, I saw the freezing. So there's a part where there's a battleship that's bothering you, and you knock out a big cooling unit, and it freezes the sea, and then you can walk up to it and punch it in the face. And that was the main question I got actually from the people in my Discord and so on. There's quite a few. They're a lot older now. Competitor products, so Supreme Commander Forged Alliance, Beyond All Reason were the two that came up. And because they're so old, they're quite cheap, right? So I suppose you've already kind of answered the question, but the main question we got was like, what makes Sanctuary Shattered Sun different? Why is it worth investing in this over playing Sutcom and so on?
Well, those are both great games, by the way. Like you can buy Forged Alliance and play on FAF for a couple of dollars when it's on discount, and I'm pretty sure Bar is free, so we can't compete there on price. Um, Why Sanctuary? Well, we just mentioned all those hero features, so of course they're cool. We have a new engine, a new framework that we've been building over many years that is, still in progress, but already has huge performance benefits over earlier games. If you look at Forged Alliance, that's like a single-threaded simulation, which means it runs slow, and just the way they designed the network and stuff, the game runs at the slowest player's computer. Ours will run at the fastest player's computer. So all the processing is moved to the host, and he has like a beefy CPU with like 16, 32 cores, whatever, and he can just stream out the data. It's also built in such a way that it supports future CPUs that don't even exist. So one day when there's like this 400 core CPU, that'll still work, right? So you could have even bigger battles, in 20 years. People do compare us a lot to those other games, especially the haters. They're like, why would I even bother playing your game? Because it already exists over here. And it's like, well, yeah, your game's 20 years old. Come and see us in 20 years and see where we're at, because we're in our infancy. This is a pre-alpha. It's really, really early days, and we're gonna take this thing really far. So um, I know it's not all there yet, but the whole point of the demo was to show you that we can do this, man. We're on the way. We're doing it. So and we were launching Kickstarter because we need money to expand the team to develop all these features. lots of people are jaded with Kickstarter. Thank you, Star Citizen and other projects. So we wanted to come with a demo, right? And you can see our VFX, you can play it, you can see the pathfinder, you can see shatter and freeze to some extent, although they're not finished. Um, because talk is cheap, and we'd rather show you what we can do.
Yeah, definitely. So I've checked out the demo. You were talking about the Tier 5 Titans. There's a pretty good mission towards the end of the demo where it says, it's talking about a high level threat and you have to deal with the high level threat. And then it says, you are the threat. And then you command this Tier 5 unit and you just go around cleaning out the waves of trash. You've got a big wave gun that destroys 20, 30 units at once. It's a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
you touched on a few points there. I'll cycle back to like performance and multiplayer and stuff like that. There's some interesting stuff there. How long have you guys been working on this for, and how big is the team?
It's been about 5 or 6 years, to be honest. But when we started, we were like a couple of guys. We had no funding. It was kind of like something that was happening in our spare time. So it's not like we were going like full fledged for that whole time. And over the years, we expanded the team. We eventually got investors who saw our product. And that's a kind of a funny story because just sort of as a joke on YouTube, we asked if anyone has any money, give us a call. And we got calls, man.
Oh,
Like we got eight
fantastic!
calls and we raised, a fair amount of money. And we were able to hire a bunch of people with skills that we didn't have and ramp up the team. And we've been trucking along for a while now, but we had a bit of well, you can't build everything at the same time. There's a foundation piece that needs to be put in place. A whole bunch of code uh, needs to be written before you can start stacking on the features, and that took us a long time to get there. It's hard stuff. There's a reason why people don't make games like this. It is technically challenging, but we've done it now. Another comparison with Bar is, like I'm pretty sure they built their game off the Spring engine. So
It did, yeah.
they just started with all that. They got that out of the box on day one. They had a multiplayer network, game. We didn't have that. We use the Unity engine, which is good, but it doesn't give you any of that stuff. So we spent a long time, man, sorting all that. Now it's totally different. Now that's done and dusted. So the stacking on of the features is happening. If you saw what the game looked like even 6 months ago, it's so much has happened since then. And that's why it's a great time to launch to Kickstarter, because now with your help and the additional resources, we can scale up the team, hire a couple more people, and just ship this bad boy really fast. It's like now that works, but earlier it didn't.
Fair enough, yeah. So that was a question I was going to ask you guys. Like, how have you been working on this for all this time? Because I saw you have a Patreon. The Patreon's like it's like a couple grand a month, so not it's a nice amount of money to have, but it's obviously not enough to sustain a team of like 10 people or whatever. It's more like one person.
Yeah, it used to be higher. We actually turned that down because we knew the Kickstarter was coming, and
Right.
you would get the same benefits in Kickstarter. So we actually shut the Patreon down a bit because we didn't want people to go get a free copy of the game, and then in Kickstarter you get a free copy of the game, and it would just be like terrible for everyone. So but that actually the Patreon has provided quite a lot of money over the years. Thank you, Patreons, by the way, and investors and backers. You're all awesome. Um, so that does it definitely pays for a guy or two, right? And it's been
Right.
like huge. Um, but yeah, mainly from investor money. Like, so we were as people see videos like this, they reach out with a couple of questions, and they just feel like it's going places, and they invest and they buy shares in the company. That's how we've predominantly funded the project. Um, and over time it just gets less risky over time, right? Because at the very start we didn't have all that engine stuff, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have heaps of the things that we have. We didn't have the art, we didn't have all these problem solve, we didn't have like the huge community and stuff like that. If you go on our Discord now, we're getting like tens of 10,000 messages, like it's on fire. And the social proof right now is really high. So I think for
Right.
now to get investors, it's going to be a lot easier than it was in the past. And we're really reaching the end game because with the funds that we raised from Kickstarter, with the funds we're about to get from investors, that's pretty in a good position, and getting one or two more should be quite easy.
Yeah, fantastic. It's good to see because like the Kickstarter seems to be performing quite well. Like you said, you're about to hit the Navy stretch goal. You got the air stretch goal. I think you met your initial pledge in like 40 minutes or something, or it was about an
Yeah,
hour. You guys like you launched the Kickstarter like a few minutes early, and then by the time I checked it, it was already basically there at the basic goal. It's good to see there's so much belief because obviously the other side of the coin is RTS dead genre. Give up, go play Fortnite. So it's good to see these things are working out.
that's true. RTS isn't what it used to be. We have a small audience, but a really die-hard audience, and you can see that in the Kickstarter right now. People are going there, they're picking their pledge package, and then they just buy every single add-on. Right? They're just trying to give you money because they want it to work, they want it to happen, they want to meet the stretch goals. I think, and that's another interesting bit about the investors is almost every single one of them comes from an RTS background, right? Like I've talked
Right.
to like heaps of investors, dozens of them that don't, and they don't buy in, right? They're like, I don't know, man. So, they invest in stuff, but they don't understand RTS. Where all of the people who actually invested and gave us significant amounts of money, they were all just players, fans of the game, or they just watch casts because heaps of people just do that. They just watch casts and they don't even play. But they saw the gap in the market. I didn't have to explain it to them. They knew
Yeah.
that if someone made this game, it's going to sell a million copies, right? I don't have to tell them. They just know it because there is a gap in the market. People do want a game like this. So um, that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, fantastic. On the point of the casts, yeah. So I watch Guile casts. I saw you did an interview with him, and
Hmm.
I haven't launched Supreme Commander Forged Alliance in quite a while actually. So I'm one of those guys that just watches the casts. I have the same on my channel for the game I play, Warno. A lot of
Mm,
people stopped playing a couple of years ago, but they watch the casts.
yeah.
So yeah, there is a market there, and it's good that you guys are tapping into it. So my next question was going to be like, have you made other games before? Like, what's the team's background? Do you all come from the games industry, or is it primarily we were fans and we taught ourselves how to make this game?
It's a mixture. So we have a couple of people who came from like modding backgrounds and already were like making really cool modding content for other RTS games. Like if you look at Avitus, he made all the models for the RVE mod in Supreme Commander 2, which is just really, really beautiful content. So much so, in fact, that still on the Steam store page right now, if you look at Supreme Commander 1 in the library, they've got his artwork as the header art for the official Supreme Commander 1 game, which is inaccurate. Like, I mean, they're still in our content, man, which is fine. But I think that's amusing. But that just goes to show, like, the quality of the content, right? Is even the creators
Yeah,
confuse it for their own. And then we lots of people come to us, the younger programmers interested in working on a project like that. There's so many people working on stuff like this anyway. They're doing their own little like hobby project or whatever, and then they come to us and they want to be in on it, and they just show us all the stuff they built, and it's amazing. They've made amazing things. So we hire from there. We do have some more veteran staff on the team working on like PlayStation 5 games, things like that. Um, and basically, just in general, we're hiring people who do things that we can't do. Like, for example, I have a
right.
very strong programming background. So I wrote, the first iteration of the code for Sanctuary,
Yeah,
but I certainly cannot do all the everything to do with high performance programming. Absolutely not. It's quite specialist. So when we hire, we look for people who plug those gaps and are really good at that sort of stuff. So we've got a really great team now, and it's. I remember when I was first talking to Chris Taylor about like making an RTS, and I was trying to explain to him how because the Unity and the engines make it so easy these days, you don't even need a great team. And he just laughed at me. He's like, ha! And I'm like, anyway, I get it now. You totally need a great team. You absolutely do. You get nowhere. And you need good people. And it's taken us a long time to grab our team. Like you look at the quality of our VFX and our visuals and stuff, we have like one guy makes all of that stuff.
All
And
right.
you're just like, make a cool thing. And he's like, okay. And it's done.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I agree with you. It's many hands make light work and so on. And the other thing about the out of the box game engines. So that was going to be one of my future questions. So you use Unity. Unity
Hmm.
has a bit of a bad rap in the indie space for that. There's lots of games that run very badly in Unity, including some RTS games. I played your demo. It runs reasonably well, especially given how many units are on the screen. So you've got hundreds, if not thousands, in some of the demo missions.
That's the
So
slow version. If you play our multiplayer, which is coded in a different way that's super high performance, you'll see that it's much, much better at performance. And gradually, all that stuff, the mission that you're playing, all those single player experiences, they're all moving across to the new platform, which is like way, way, way faster. And and that's not finished either because it's going to get even faster because until like every bit's optimized it just sort of like runs slow, so parts of it run like lightning and then this bit's like slow, so we're getting there, but you just wait.
well, that's really good to hear. But yeah, the question was going to be like, how have you gotten Unity to that state? I assume you must have a lot of custom code in there because out of the box Unity doesn't run like this. There's a game I cover on the channel which shall remain nameless that's made in the Unity game engine, and you have like 30 units. It doesn't run very well. Your game's got a few thousand. So could you talk a bit more about that?
uh well, I don't know how they've done things, but 30 units doesn't, that's a very small count. You should be able to improve that quite a lot without too many tricks, just normal stuff. But for us to get the really, really high performance, you got to use dots, not normal Unity. Dots is a very unconventional way of programming in Unity. Most Unity devs would not know how to do it. It's weird, right? And it's hard, but it runs like Lightspeed. And what it does is if you have like 1,000 units and you need to do something to them, it chops up the processing into little
Right.
jobs and it distributes them to different CPUs. So they all run at the same time. So it's like you go work that out. Sorry, not CPUs, cores. You go calculate this, you calculate this, you calculate this, you calculate this, and then they all do their thing, and then it just puts the results together, right? And you end up um, working in parallel, and then you can do crazy things. Like, in our early tests, we had like 50,000 tanks on the field at like 100 frames per second, and that was not hard to do. We're not going to do that in Sanctuary because it doesn't work over the network. The bandwidth doesn't support it. But in
Yeah.
terms of CPU, you can totally do it. And DOTS enables all that. The other thing that we had to do is we spent a lot of time making code to render stuff quickly. So we just don't use any of the out of the box Unity stuff for drawing things on the screen. Our technical artist is super duper smart and very good at solving these types of problems. Even just like rendering progress bars on the screen. You got to render 100 progress bars on the screen. Well, you better think about how you do that because if you do a naive solution, that's going to be slow. Strategic icons, range rings, shields, bullets, particles, trees, uh, everything, every single thing in the game, we just use our own stuff, except for the terrain. The ground of the terrain is pretty standard. But with our custom code that renders it, we're able to cull, we're able to have lots of control over how things run, and we're able to get like a good result out of it. Like, for example, with our trees, we rendered 100,000 trees at like 60 FPS or 100 FPS, I don't know. If you use normal Unity trees to do that,
Yeah,
you'd get like
exactly. Yeah.
3 FPS. So that's an example of the sort of work that we do. and it all takes time, But we've uh, we've managed to do it. We've done a good job. I think the one of the bigger rendering things that we need to sort out is we don't have LODs on our unit, so we need to make low poly versions of them, especially when there's wrecks. So you might have 5,000 wrecks on the field, and right now that does slow down the game quite a bit. So we're getting there. We know we're sorting it out. Um, the other issue is because we have mod support, the mod support isn't multi-threaded. That part is single-threaded. So there's a whole
Right.
bunch of logic there that runs in Lua, which is great for modders that you can change and all that sort of stuff. But there's no real way to distribute it across the cores and stuff. So that's a bottleneck. And while huge parts of the game might run really, really fast, that bit does need lots of attention to keep it running quickly.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the modding support. So you mentioned Lua, that's quite a popular one, popular scripting language for modders. So how far does that go? Like, so I assume, like, can you put new models in? Can you put new sound files in, new VFX, and then, like, if you wanted to, could you make your own single player campaign, say, or is it mainly about adding new units and things like that?
Well, right now, lots of those things are possible already, but by the end of it, all of those things will be possible. So we still have some like hard coded bits, but not many. We're just phasing them all out. Um, Sanctuary is basically a mod on our engine, so you could even put a whole different game on there, even games that aren't RTS games. Although it's all designed to be good for RTS. Our engine does things like pathfinding, physics, network connectivity, all of this like really intense stuff, the rendering, and our Lua just tells it what to do. So it's like, hey, there's this thing called a tank. It has a progress bar. There's a building called a shield generator. It has a shield bubble, and the mods just piece together little bits of stuff. And anyway, so you can do quite a lot of stuff, and people have already imported some like Grand Theft Auto characters into Sanctuary and some units from other games and stuff. I'm actually really impressed by how they've done that because we haven't explained at all anything how to like. To be honest, I don't know how to do that. That's like one thing I don't know how to mod into my game. I haven't looked into that bit, but people are just dismantling everything and figuring it out, which is really fun. We have a map creator, so people can make maps. Maps have scripts, which is just Lua, so you can make your own experiences. You can make like a survival game or, some mini game, something like that. You'd totally be able to make your own faction. You can import um, audio. You can import models, voice acting, all this stuff. It'll all be there. Heaps of it is already. You could absolutely make your own units, and people are doing it already.
Well, that's really good to hear. I mean, that's over the long term, that's what keeps these projects alive, right? The community and how much they can put into it. Certainly for things like Command and Conquer, there's like whole new custom campaigns and stuff. 20 years later, people are still adding things. So that's really
Gap in
good
the
to hear.
market.
Yeah,
Gap in the
exactly.
market. Like, how many people are still playing games from 20 years ago?
Yeah.
And it's a lot. Um, yeah, well, when we started the project, we had a few like cornerstones, like really critical key goals, the design pillars, we call them. And modding was always one of them because a lot of us came from FAF, Forged Alliance.
Yeah.
Go play FAF. Great. Um, and, that community is really thriving because the game's like so old. It's 20 years old,
Yeah.
but it was thriving so much, and we're looking at why. And I think modding is a big part of it. Which also just means the community can make bug fixes. By the way, it's not just like adding units. It's like they can fix the problems. Um, map creation. When Forge Alliance released, it had like 20 maps or something. They have like 4,000 or 8,000 maps over there. So
Yeah.
it's nuts. And that's what gives it long legs, right? Those things. You need those things to keep it going. So we had that in on day one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And it also means all that work you've put into the technical side, like lots of units on screen and stuff. people don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, right? If they wanted to make something, they could do it in your sub engine, your engine instead.
Yeah, that's right. Although, if they're going to make a whole game, I guess they'd be talking about leasing the engine off us, right? And
Is
we've
that
already had
something you'd be
people,
willing to do?
yeah, we've already had inquiries, like light inquiries, because we're not finished yet, right? But
Yeah,
there's like people that you meet at gaming conventions, and they're like, oh, well, I actually own the rights to make, this title over here. Maybe I could do it on your engine. And we're talking like pretty significant IP, right?
yeah,
Like, it would be pretty cool. So you could end up having like a game of like Lord of the Rings or something running on the Sanctuary engine, which would be like pretty amazing. We're not there yet, but it could happen. And that's one thing that I do besides managing the game and doing all the development and stuff is I go to these game conventions and I meet people and you just look for opportunities, right?
yeah.
Because there's all sorts of things going on over there. Like people, want to hire your developers and all sorts of things for other projects and stuff. But we're not really interested in that. But it would be totally cool to enable other games, right? That
Yeah.
would be such a real cool feather in our cap to have all these other titles running on our engine. That would be great.
Yeah, so I suppose at the moment you're like self-published, right? I mean, you've got investors, you've got the Kickstarter backers, the patrons, um, but you don't have like a an official publisher, right? So I think BAR signed with Hooded Horse. There's
Mm,
another game I play called Broken Arrow, and they signed with Slytherin. So they were like a team of uh,
yeah.
they were like a clan from a previous game, and they wanted to make their own game, so they signed with a publisher. How comes you guys went for this approach as opposed to the more conventional one?
Yeah, so we're an indie team. We don't have a publisher, and what that means is no one's calling the shots except us, right? When you sign with a publisher, you have a lot of strings attached, which isn't evil or anything. They need to protect their investment and all that sort of stuff. But you first you design your whole game, right?
Yeah,
Right now in a document. Then you sign a contract that you're going to do it, and you're going to do this bit on this date, this bit on this date, this bit on this date. We and that is not the way to make the best game.
yeah,
That's the way to make a game on time, right? Which is what they're trying to do. They're just trying to keep the game on budget. We want to make the best game. We want to change our mind. We want to like say, oh yeah, well the plan was to do this, but the community had this amazing idea over here, and let's go with that. So we want the freedom and flexibility to do that. Plus, contract publishers cancel games all the time, right?
right.
They can just cancel them. They don't need a reason. They don't need to. They could be that the price of Bitcoin went down or something like that, and their investment strategy didn't work out, and now they got to cancel 3 games. It has
Yeah,
nothing to do with you. But once you're cancelled, you try getting another publisher again because in the part of the terms and conditions is when you get a new publisher, the first thing the new one has to do is pay out the previous one. So if they put like $1 million in the game,
right.
they have to you pay that out and then you need more money. So it becomes a really tough sell. And it just seems like a big risk to be honest. So we've always wanted to stay independent and we will probably do that for as long as we can. Right. And it's looking good because Kickstarter's going well, and we could talk a little bit about Kickstarter projections as well and how much we expect to make. But we will get a certain amount from them, then a certain amount from the investors. Then we'll probably be done and have enough money to see this thing through. And if not, we can get money from early access and finish it, or sign with a publisher then, but do it from a much stronger position because the game will be like 93% finished or
Yeah.
something. So we're not at their mercy and we can just, you know, ask for a much better deal.
Yeah, fair enough. I think this is something most gamers don't really think about is that so when you're making a video game, like you say you've been working on this for 5 years, that's 5 years without a sellable product, right? Because it takes a very long time to make the tech, it takes a very long time to make the game.
Yeah.
If you're baking cakes or something, you make a cake, you sell it, you use the money to buy another cake. You can't do that here. So it's really hard to get these things off the ground, and I'm glad you're having so much success with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've had some dark days where we were wondering if maybe it wasn't going to go that well. But from where we are today, honestly, all the hard bits done, all the engine work that was really, really difficult, that stuff's done and dusted. We have we have heaps of work to do, but it's all kind of just work. It's not like, there's risk attached to those jobs. It's just
Yeah.
more of the same. So it looks like it's gonna work out, man.
Yeah, I think that's great because you there's a lot of horror stories on Kickstarter. I think you've highlighted that before. So the most recent one I backed was called Industrial Annihilation, and it got its money. And if you check the reviews on Steam, it's like overwhelmingly negative, zero players
Hmm.
online, that sort of thing. But it sounds like you guys are a lot further along. I mean, having played your demo, it's got a lot in it.
Yeah, I don't really want to comment on other people's projects and stuff. And to be honest, I don't know that much about it. But I'm really wary, right? So what we do is we try and overpromise and underdeliver. So some people criticize us for the size of our stretch goals, right? The Navy's going to cost this much money, and they're like, "Why will it cost that money? Why? Tell me why." T5s cost so much more than all the other units and all this stuff. And it's basically, I just don't want to let you guys down, right? That's kind of it. So I make sure that we have enough funds to deliver the feature. I'm really careful actually not to like make promises. I just say things like, you know, we will definitely do this, we'll probably do this, but no promises. I say that like 5 times a day.
Right.
And I don't want to do what the other Kickstarters have done, which is just give you this impression that everything's going to happen. Well, look, it's not. It's not everything's going to happen. But here's what we are going to do. We're going to meet all the stretch goals as stated on the page. We're going to go to early access in a year with whatever we've got. Right now, we may not have all of the stretch goals done by then. We might
Right.
not, but they'll come. Okay. And in the meantime, like all that early access needs to do is be like a fun RTS game, right? That's
Yeah.
all it needs to do. So the reviews don't tank. We will get so much done in that year, insane amounts. And Sanctuary's already fun, right? So in a
It is.
year,
Yeah.
it's going to be great. We launch with that, and then maybe another one or two stretch goals come in afterwards. But that's what an early access game is. It's an incomplete, unfinished game, but it's fun, right? You can't just
Yeah.
launch it when it's not fun. Anyway, so that's the plan. That seems like a really reasonable plan, man. And otherwise, I would have to say I don't know what the release date is. So
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
going to do that to you. I'll see you in a year with a fun game.
Fantastic, yeah. And one of the Kickstarter reward tiers, which is the one I'm on, is that as soon as the Kickstarter ends, or shortly thereafter, you get access to the alpha development build, right, with the multiplayer and so on.
Yeah, we call it the beta access. So right now, um, players have access to the free demo, but they don't have access to the newer multiplayer version, which is the beta,
Yeah,
and that'll go through all of. So if you get the right tier, you get access to the beta when Kickstarter ends, not when you back, when it ends. And then you can play multiplayer, you can play skirmish, and that's just going to be regularly updated from now on. Um, it's got like half, like we haven't released some bits are turned off right now because they're half broken, but we have air half done. We have some commander powers, things like that. So we'll unleash all of that once Kickstarter ends, and then from then on, we'll just be making periodic updates. And I guess one question that I'll be asking the audience, and I'll be curious to read any comments down below, is how often do you want updates anyway? Like, if a feature is broken and terrible, do you want it? Because we can give it to you. Or do you want more infrequent, stable updates where you only get it? You get an update every 2 months, but everything in it's pretty good, because I think that's probably more sensible. But I'm starting to ask around because hell, you guys decide.
Yeah, I think that's great. So switching gears a little bit, I've got some questions about, what's actually going to be in the game, a bit more about content than how it's made and so on. So I think one of the stretch goals is like extra missions for the campaign,
Hmm.
something like that. So there are three factions. One of them is the Earth Defense Alliance. I think I saw one of the goals was extra missions for that. So at the moment, how many missions do you plan on having in the single player?
Well, look, there'll be at least five. This is one of those things I don't want to disappoint you type of thing. I don't want to like promise and stuff. So, well, we want to do quality over quantity. I think people like the mission that we've already supplied as a demo. It's quite a big mission. It doesn't go for like 20 minutes. It goes for like 45 to 2 hours, depending
Yeah,
on how you play. So we'll have at least five. Obviously, we'd love to do way more, and we'll do as many as we can. Okay, but we do have constrained resources, so maybe it will be five, and then that. But what we have done is we've made a framework to make missions really easily. It took us a
right.
long time to do, but we have all sorts of tools in our toolkit to just slap missions together. And we should be able to pump them out pretty good, and then we can start looking at the God and chosen stuff. We don't have stretch goals for those announced, but it's basically like we should be able to do them at some point, and when we can, we will. Maybe that'll be after early access, but it really should be fairly straightforward to make some extra campaign missions. It's not hard.
Yeah. So as you said, the demo mission that's in the campaign mission that's in the demo, yeah, it took me like over an hour to do. At the moment in the demo, there's no save functionality for the single player. So will in the full game will there be the ability to save and come back where you left off?
Yeah, there will. And we've 99% built that as well, but there's some bugs and we didn't want to delay the launch and
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, that's 100% on the radar. And I think that might be pretty frustrating for people when you play for like, an hour, you die, and then you got to go back to, there's a checkpoint that gets saved at one point. You go back to the checkpoint. But it is pre alpha. The game's not finished, and some of it's completely broken, right? Like there are big bugs in there. Um, but yeah, save didn't make it by the deadline. Sorry.
Well, yeah, it's good. Obviously, you said you didn't want to comment on other projects, but I've played games where there's very long campaign missions and there is no save, so I figured I'd ask. So it's good
Oh
to
yeah,
hear that
like I
there'll be
mean,
one.
by all means, you trash talk the other projects. That's fine. You go for it.
Fair enough, yeah. So switching to multiplayer, will there be replays and or a spectator mode?
Yeah, we already have a spectator mode. We call it Observer. So in multiplayer, if you join us the last slot in a game, it's kind of hidden. No, there's no reasonable way for you to know this. You join as the last slot. You're not playing. You're observing. So you just
Right.
get to watch. So you can see both armies. You can zoom in and out. You can watch the battlefield. Um, so yes, already exists. Secondly, um, with the replays, we've unlocked that stretch goal. So there'll be replays that get saved to your disk, they get uploaded to the server. You can search through them, you can filter by map and by player. That's the replay vault. So thanks to our wonderful backers, we were able to unlock that stretch goal already, and it's in.
Yeah, fantastic. So if you're trying to learn hyper competitive 1v1 or something, you can go and look up whoever's highest on the ladder and copy a strats basically from the replay vault.
100%. Or if you're just looking for entertaining games to watch, you just find like a 1v1 versus two really good players and just see what they do.
Yeah, so that brings me on to my question about the sort of the matchmaking or like how are games organized. So some games you have matchmaking, you just tick 1v1, 2v2, free for all, press go and it'll do it. Other games have
Yeah,
lobbies, so you sit in the lobby, and then some games have a mix of both. So
for now, we just have custom games. So, you just host a game and then people come and join it. We should be able to do a ladder that'll come later on.
great.
And And as far as like matchmaker goes, yeah, maybe down the track, but we have a lot to do just with ladder and making ratings for players, right? So
Yeah.
none of that work is too crazy. Just there's 50,000 things to do, and we'll get there eventually.
All right, good to hear. So yeah, you mentioned right at the start, you said, so I've played games like Forged Alliance. You can get these massive games, but basically, if one guy's got a slow computer, the game runs pretty badly. You mentioned your tech was a bit different, so is it still peer to peer, or are there custom servers, or is the
Yeah,
guy who hosts the game? It depends on his computer or something.
yeah, it's peer to peer and it's limited by the host computer. So the
Right,
way some other games work is they use this thing called lockstep, which is where all the games are doing exactly the same thing. So if you have 10 players connected, you have 10 players doing the same calculations, right? They're all just doing it. In our game, it's a little bit different where the host does most of the calculations and he just tells the other ones what to do. So I'm talking about things like physics. You got all the collisions of thousands of projectiles. Do they intersect with shields? Do they intersect with terrain? Do they intersect with the units? There's a whole lot of stuff to crunch there, right? And that takes a long time. So we just do that only on one computer, and we just send it to the other players. And this is the big thing, which is actually like a more naive system, to be honest. That's a simpler way of building a game
right,
than Lockstep. Lockstep's quite expensive to build, and that's also how we got started with the project. Is the devs from Subcom were explaining to me why you don't need Lockstep anymore and why you can just stream out the data, and it's because the internet got better. Yeah,
right.
that's all it is. The bandwidth on the internet is better, and because of that, it becomes viable to just one computer streams out all the data. And now what you're limited by the host, right? So if you put like 100,000 units on the battlefield, it might still be slow, but it's just one guy. You're not limited by every player in the match, right?
Yeah.
You're limited by this one PC, and we'll give you the tools to work out which is the best PC, and also which one has the best upload speed, because that's really important too. If you have like a great PC but a bad upload speed, that's not going to be good for any players at all, right? So we'll give you those tools. So when you're in the lobby, we'll recommend a way of hosting it. You should do it this way. And I just got a reminder on my phone to attend this interview, which is very helpful. Phone, thank you. Um, so yeah, and that won't completely eliminate lag, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's ever going to get rid of it, but what it will do is make it less common and affect your game less.
I think that's really good because that's a big problem with these other RTS games is that you get players from all over the world, which is great. Lots of different PC specs and so on, and it can be very frustrating to have a situation where somebody else's computer is slow and now you're stuck in a game for 2 hours with them and you have to suffer through that. So I think your system sounds better, frankly.
Yeah, and on behalf of all of the Australian players, I'd like to apologize for our pings, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's all right. We forgive you if this works out. So
All
you
right.
said there's going to be at least a ladder mode for like 1v1. The other things for now are going to be hosting lobbies, but you might look into that sort of moving down. My next question is one you might not have thought about too much. So the games I cover on this channel recently had a pretty big cheating scandal.
Okay.
Various ways you can cheat. It depends a lot on your server architecture and so on. Is that something you've thought about? Anything you've put some time into?
Yeah, that's there's challenges with that. I don't really want to get into that one too much, but there are ways of making cheating very inconvenient and less likely to happen, or just detecting it when it happens, and then it becomes a moderation issue instead of actually preventing it. So um, yeah, we can talk about that more later, maybe one day.
Fair enough. Yeah, I understand not wanting to tell people exactly how it works because then they come up with a circumvention, right?
Yeah, but I guess in this day of AI, maybe that's a bit of a problem. Like, if you've seen in the news recently how they
Yeah.
just break into everything, maybe my game doesn't have much of a chance compared to the things that are happening these days.
All right. Well, that was basically all my questions. So what kind of plans do you have like moving forwards? So I guess you're mainly focused on the Kickstarter now, and you said early access after that. People have been asking me to ask you about DLCs and stuff, but I assume it's way too early in the day to think about that.
Yeah, so the focus is just on Sanctuary, getting that delivered. That's basically everything. We need to ramp up the team, make a few critical hires, set budgets, because we don't even know what features are in scope yet. So there'll be a whole planning phase about to happen where we start working out the next steps. Early access in a year, all that sort of stuff. But of course, there will be DLCs. Like we want to work on this thing as long as we can. While there's a market for it, we'll keep putting them out. We have so many ideas. It's just heaps of things that we thought about putting in Sanctuary that we thought would be really, really awesome, but we didn't have the resources to do it. And like, frankly, we've already got so much on our plate right now that it just doesn't seem like a good idea to keep adding scope. But the list of things we could put into a DLC is like absolutely massive. So, you could add a fourth faction, you could add like a whole additional second campaign story, you could do a prequel, you could do all these different game modes, you could do packs of units. There's just many, many different ways it'll go. And and we'll also have to be looking at making a second title because like the reality is when you're making a game you have like this awesome team,
Yeah.
but maybe one of them sort of finished their work, right? They don't
Right.
have too much to do, and you can fire them or you can start work on game two. And I really like our team. It took a long time to find them, so we do need to think about, well, what is next, because even if it's just working a tiny little bit like at 3% capacity or something like that, you do need to like have things, you know, ideas and plans and a strategy. And also for our investors, they always want to know, well, what's going to happen next? Like, do you just finish Sanctuary and then you turn off the company, or are you still paying all the salaries, right? And
Yeah.
where's the income going to come to pay those salaries and stuff? So you have to have a plan. And for us, we just want to pump out a bunch of strategy games. So not just RTS, but strategy games. We've got the team that can build it. We've got the all the ideas that we didn't put into Sanctuary. We've got all our existing audience, which we can direct to a new game and say, "Hey, check out this other awesome game." Um, so and we could spin up secondary games quite quickly because with the engine done, we could do like outsource the art
Yeah.
to an agency that has like 200 artists. So instead of taking 3 years to make the art, it takes like 8 months or something. We would still do the art direction, right? We would still have somebody in the company saying it should be like this. We'd have a concept artist inside our company making sure, like designing it all, right? So we're in control of how it looks, but we don't need to place every vertex.
Right.
That is a way that we could ship a second title quite quickly because with our engine, you can make heaps of different feeling strategy games. It's all just content, and it's all different parameters inside text files that explain how things behave. So with a combination of our engine and this art outsourcing, we could spin up game two actually quite quickly, and that's something that we think about.
Yeah. So if people want to follow the project, want to support the project, where's the best way to do that? How can they find you?
Well, if you just want some info, come to our Discord, which is on fire. There's plenty of people talking there about everything, so go there. But what would be really helpful just now, if anybody's interested, go check out the Kickstarter page. There's a trailer, there's a presentation video, there's a whole bunch of GIFs, there's a whole bunch of rewards. If you like strategy games, if you like RTS, please just go have a look, and maybe you can help us meet our next stretch goal. Just and help make RTS great again.
All right, well, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. I'll link the Kickstarter in the description, along with some gameplay from the demo and so on. And hope you have a lovely day.
Awesome. Thanks heaps for having me. It's been great to chat, and I guess I'll see you next time.
Great, bye.